What's going on, guys? My name is Zach, or OpTic, and I have a quick tutorial for you guys today. I made a previous tutorial on render settings outside of After Effects to get really high quality files outside of After Effects, and I'll leave a link to that video in the description if you want to check it out. But the only problem with that is that you can't upload that to YouTube. I mean, you could if you wanted to, but the file sizes are so large that it takes a long time to upload. So what I usually do is I compress it for YouTube with the proper YouTube settings so that it uploads really well and the file sizes are smaller, and it keeps good quality, you know, it's not bad quality. So my favorite way to do it, and there are multiple different ways to compress your footage, but I'm going to show you how to do it in Premiere and Adobe Media Encoder, which is basically the same thing. So here I am in Premiere Pro, and this project isn't actually a real project, but it could be a project that you exported out of After Effects and you're ready to do the final render. It could be a project that you just did entirely out of Premiere, but these render settings are specifically for YouTube. Alright, so the first thing you want to make sure of is, before you actually hit export, is that this work area render region thing, that's what's going to be exporting. So if you don't have that set correctly, you're not going to be exporting what you actually want to export. So I want to only export this video, like these clips right here, so I'm going to drag it in to the ends and the beginning. And if you have snapping enabled, and if you click there you can enable snapping, it will snap to the beginning and end, and you have it set perfectly for your render. And by the way, the shortcut is Alt open bracket for the beginning and Alt end bracket for the end. So once you have that set, you want to come under File and Exports, Export Media, which the shortcut is Control M, and this will open up your export settings. So it may look a bit complicated, but bear with me, it's really not that bad. You can expand this if you want a little bit or something, give you more space. Alright, so this is actually a preview of what you're going to be rendering, and obviously you can see with the current settings this would look terrible if I rendered this right now. So let's go ahead and start putting in the right settings. So for format, for YouTube and most internet video is H.264, so that's what we're going to be using. And for presets, there's actually, in Premiere Pro, you should have a YouTube preset. Now we're not going to be using it entirely, but it's pretty close to what we want. So we can go ahead and select YouTube HD 720p 29.97. That's perfect for YouTube. There's just a couple of things we have to tweak. So before we do anything else though, let's set the output name and location. So if you click this text right here, I'm just going to save it to my desktop, and I'm going to call it Render Settings Tutorial. And then just hit save. That's where it's going to be saved, and you just named it. So now under video, we have the familiar 1280 by 720 resolution. That's good. We have the frame rate as 29.97, which is good for YouTube. It's perfect. Field order progressive. For COD clips, you always want to keep it progressive. Same with the pixel aspect ratio, you always want to keep it 1. NTSC, high, 3.1, that's fine. And here's what we're actually going to be changing. So we want to keep it at 2 pass, but we're going to bump up the bitrate a bit. So we can do it, let's say, just bump it up a couple of numbers, maybe 7.7. And that just ensures we get the full quality out of our render, even though it may not make too much of a difference. And you can see the preview of what we're going to be rendering, like I said, here at the left. So if I set this to 100%, this is actually scaled exactly to what it would be scaled if you did like full screen mode or whatever. So you can see the encoding looks really good. So we are good to go. We're on the right track. Anything else we have to change? Nope, none of this. You can use maximum render quality if you want. It increases render quality a bit, but it also increases render time, so it's really up to you. I usually don't use it, but like I said, it's up to you. You don't want to check any of these other ones. Now under audio, you want to make sure that it is being compressed, because if you leave it at uncompressed, it will increase the file size quite a bit. So AAC is fine, 48K is fine, stereo, high quality, and the bitrate is good too. So if you have the YouTube preset, this should be all the same, but if you don't have that preset, you can just copy down these settings. And all of this other stuff you don't want to mess with. And that's basically it. Make sure that export video is checked, make sure that export audio is checked. You can double check your settings here if you want. But besides that, only thing we can do now is to save the preset that we just created. So you want to come under the preset here, and then this button is save preset. And then you can name it. I'm going to name it YouTube 720p max or 29.97 max quality. Then hit OK. Now before you hit export, you can actually double check this to make sure that your work area is set correctly down here. And you can actually still change it if you want, but in my case this is set the way that I want to, so I'm good to go. So most of you guys can just hit export, and that would just export it like you would imagine. It would use Premiere Pro, and you can just upload to YouTube straight from there. But as an extra little tip, I'm just going to show you what happens if you press Q. It'll actually open up Adobe Media Encoder. And if I bring over here, the good thing about Adobe Media Encoder is that you can be rendering through Media Encoder, but still be working inside of Premiere, so it doesn't like take over your entire software. So it's a nice background rendering tool, but you can also use it to like convert a bunch of clips at the same time. But if you do hit Q and you want to use this for rendering and then keep working in Premiere, you can see, then the settings really are the same. It's just laid out a little bit differently. If you click one of these, it will give you the same little export settings. Just want to make sure your settings are good. And this is your location. You just set that. And you can see this says the status ready. And then you just hit the start queue button. And actually, if I had a bunch of different tasks in here, you could set that to render overnight, and it would actually render all of them starting from the top to bottom. So this would be great for clips, like I said, or just maybe if you have multiple projects you're working on or whatever. It would actually render all of those, and you would just want to set the settings, set the location, and then hit play. So let me delete these other ones. Yes. Then hit play. You can see it'll start exporting. Now we don't have to watch it export, but you get the idea. So like I said, if you don't want to use Media Encoder and you're inside Premiere Pro, you just hit export, and it'll start exporting inside of Premiere. And that's what I usually do 90% of the time, but unless I'm converting clips or I am doing something special that I need to use Premiere or something, I would use Media Encoder. But otherwise, I would just do it like this. It'd be exporting, and then you're ready to upload to YouTube. You can see the estimated file size for this is only 85 megabytes, and this video is like a couple minutes long, so that's pretty good ratio. Now obviously you can make it even smaller, but then you're sacrificing some quality, and you can make it even larger, but then at that point you're kind of wasting space and time because YouTube will compress the hell out of it anyways. But besides that, I hope this helped you guys out, and I will see you guys in the next video.